How exactly do you know when to believe something at face value or not? When is something actually fact, and when is it just temporary fact? I imagine being a talented author and gifted storyteller is a lot of fun, playing on people's emotions, their expectations, shaping their mind in such a way as to blow it once again. It's an art, one not everybody has mastered, and sometimes what you do not say is as important as what you do. Hey YouTube, Joeboy here. So, I'm pretty sure some of you will be confused. Isn't a fact because it's factual? Sure, but how do you determine a fact in a story? Once a character says it, is it fact? The Minx told us that Revujo was not in Zo, yet we learned later that he was. They lied. People lie. Characters lie. A character's word can be a fact, sure. In fact, it usually is, but not always. Some words can also be very misleading. Luffy tells us that Ace is his brother, and it's true after a fashion. Adoptive brother, different genetic parents. That's misleading and good storytelling. It's a not fact. And sometimes facts aren't even facts at all. They are just a product of assumptions. The ancient weapon Poseidon is a weapon. Well, maybe, but more specifically, it's a person. Be careful what you assume. Oda never said that a person could not also be a weapon. So is something a fact when we see it depicted on the pages? Again, most of the time, yeah. Sometimes, no. In Water 7, we saw that Lucci and Kaku, defending Iceberg, had died. Their bodies slumped against the walls and the floors. The fact of their death lasted only but a few chapters, before they were revealed to be the men in the masks attacking Iceberg and the Strads. In my opinion, facts are a dangerous thing for a theorist, and one of the strongest tools an author can use to deceive. Momonosuke is 8 years old. There is no way he could have ever met Gold D. Roger. Ever. If he says that he met Roger, he must be lying. But he did, because he's from the past. See what I mean? For most great theories, there is a fact obstacle in your way. As a theorist, if you don't play with the facts, you are never going to predict anything significant, something that is actually meant to be hidden. But you also can't just disregard what is actually being suggested too often. I find it to be a very delicate line. There has to always be a reason to look past them, a clue, a hint, to take you in the right direction and past the fact obstacle in your path. So today I want to talk about an old theory with new evidences, one I personally talked about before, but I want to do it right. We're going to go all the way. In chapter 966 of One Piece, Gold D. Roger says something interesting. Oden had just joined the Roger Pirates, and Roger and Rayleigh for the first time met his family, Toki, Momonosuke, and Hiyori. This is what Roger says. I haven't spent time with a baby in ages. Rayleigh then says, reminds me of the old days. This is an absolutely baffling offhand comment. Firstly, based on what we actually know, it doesn't make any sense. Secondly, why is it even there? Roger spent time with a baby before? When? Ace is likely not even conceived yet, let alone born. Is Roger referring to when he himself was a young man? Before he was a pirate and he had, I don't know, a younger brother or sister? Or maybe he was an orphan raised in an orphanage? Is any of this even important enough to mention and include in One Piece? Is it hype enough to tease like this? Rayleigh says, reminds me of the old days, as if he and Roger both took care of a baby, like a baby was once on board their pirate ship, or, before the Roger Pirates began? What? Did they recruit Shanks and Buggy as babies? Is one of those kids Rayleigh and or Roger's son? This one seemingly insignificant line. So much confusion. Within this quote, I believe, lies a mystery and a reveal that will happen in the future of One Piece. It may be debatable what that actually is, but something important and or interesting is absolutely here that we do not currently know. If you do not agree with me here, if you don't think this line is relevant to speculate on, it is in your best interest to leave now. Likely, you are definitely not going to like the rest of this video. So let's talk about Ace. Ace was conceived within a year after Roger found Laugh-Tale and the Roger Pirates disbanded, exactly 5 months before Roger himself had died. After Roger died, the Marines sought everyone who they knew or suspected had a connection to him. Because of this, Ace could not be born on time. Rouge held off giving birth to him for an entire 20 months out of sheer willpower. Let's overanalyze this a bit. But don't get too caught up in the details just yet, we are actually going somewhere. Seemingly random question. What was Roger's love life really like? Had he met Rouge before he found Laugh-Tale or after? Why did he go to this island in the South Blue? Was it for Rouge or just like a pleasant accident? If he met her for the first time in the South Blue after Laugh-Tale, I think the relationship went places very, very quickly. And even if he did not, I do find it just a little strange. Remember, Roger was sick. He even planned to die by turning himself in and start the Great Pirate Era. He was never and could never be the father of this child. Ace, for sure, would never know his father. And I think even worse than this, Roger knew that the Marines would trace his footsteps and discover the child and the mother. Roger told Garp that he expected Portgas de Rouge would also die. This child would not have a father or a mother. That was Roger's expectation. What a situation to put a baby in. Was Ace an accident, unplanned? Or was Ace created on purpose to carry on Roger's legacy, even if the chance that he survived was small? I want to point something out to you guys that I think is very odd and not enough people talk about. We learned this in chapter 950, the chapter in which Sengoku reveals Ace to be the biological son of Gold D. Roger. Sengoku says this: "We were looking everywhere when we got word from Cypherpole about the possibility that one of his children would be on a certain island." One of his children. Think about that. It's told to us that the government killed anyone Roger ever associated with. Yet somehow they missed some of the obvious ones, like Buggy. The Buggy who actually traveled with the Roger Pirates. Why were they so concerned that they would kill people Roger was merely associated with? Even people he met before learning the secrets of the world. And how could they have missed Buggy? In addition, the government discovered Tom built Roger's ship. And if things worked out just ever so slightly differently, he would still be alive today. For a brief moment, he had been pardoned. Perhaps Buggy and Tom were not really what the government was looking for. This leads us to a conversation that Roger had with Garp. Roger tells Garp that he is going to have a child, and Garp says this: "Why are you telling me this, Roger? I'm a Marine. You should know the mother of that child, and any woman with ties to you will undoubtedly be executed." Let me repeat that. The mother of that child, and any woman with ties to you. This translation is about as official as they come. It's from the anime. And this is a translation of a line that is in the manga. At this particular time, there was not a great translator at Viz, so the One Piece official translations are not as good. Do the Marines assume that Roger has ties to other women? Why mention the possibility of other women like that? Does Roger, or did Roger, potentially have other relationships? Let's be plain here, guys. Did Roger potentially have more than one child with perhaps other women? And was the government aware of behavior like this from Roger? Why they easily suspected he could have had a child with Rouge in the South Blue. Which is why they so easily jumped to that conclusion, despite the fact that Ace wasn't even born yet. He wasn't even born and they were already looking for him. And if Roger has had other children, is that what he is referring to in chapter 966? "I haven't spent time with a baby in ages. Reminds me of the old days." Alright then, point made. Let's make this controversial. What Roger was doing between the years that he fought Rocks and discovered the final island that can be reached by Logpo's, Lodestar, 40 years ago, and when we see him here recruit Odin somewhere around 27 years ago, is mostly a mystery. All we really know is that he was adventuring and looking for poneglyphs. It's worth pointing out, before he discovered Odin, he could not actually read the Poneglyphs. Not properly at any rate. It appears that the voice of all things is not a direct substitute for actually understanding how to read the individual characters. And this seems to be of some kind of importance to Roger. This is why he went out of his way to recruit Odin. He says, with him, I am certain to discover the final island. I do not think Roger could have found the last island without Odin to read the exact words the poneglyph told. So, before meeting Odin, what exactly was Roger's plan? This is a bit of a logical puzzle for you guys. How is it possible to unlock and relearn a long-forgotten language? If you sit there and stare at the symbols long enough, if you're smart enough, can you crack it and decipher it? No, it's actually impossible. So how exactly have we been able to decode lost languages in the actual real world then, like Egyptian hieroglyphs? Let's talk about this case specifically. We discovered something that today is called the Rosetta Stone. It was a stone that contained the very same story, written essentially word for word, exactly the same, in 3 different languages. In this case, it was Ancient Greek, Demotic, and Egyptian hieroglyphs. One of these we knew very well, Ancient Greek. The other became decipherable because of our knowledge of the first. And the third was then deciphered based on the first 2. So this takes us back to One Piece. I have a question. Without a Rosetta Stone, how exactly did Ohara manage to translate and learn the language of the poneglyphs? Is this just a bit of movie magic, something Oda doesn't want us to think too much about? Or are we just not aware that this script is highly derivative of something that isn't lost to history? Or did they get, perhaps, a little help? Roger could not read the poneglyphs' actual characters. He could, however, convey their meaning using the voice of all things. He also had extensively traveled the Grand Line and found many, if not most, of the poneglyphs that were there. And as we see him in Odin's flashback, he even made copies of the poneglyphs to carry around with him. Lacking a Rosetta Stone, this is the best that we have. And I just want to know if you guys think that it's a coincidence that Roger discovers Raftel just a few years before the Oharans finally decrypted the language of the poneglyphs. And perhaps even more striking than this was the fact that Ohara actually left in search of poneglyphs the exact year Roger got sick. They left for the first time in hundreds of years. Are these 2 events related? Did one help the other? I want to speculate. Did Roger help the Oharans translate the poneglyphs and learn its language? Did Roger give them all of his documents, information, and knowledge because he knew he needed to be able to read them word for word, but wasn't smart enough to be able to decipher its characters himself? Is Roger responsible for all or most of the research Ohara was doing? Said in another way, were they doing it in part for him? So now I have another panel I want to read to you. Hold your breath. When Robin was 2 years old, approximately 28 years before the start of the story, her mother, Nico Olvia, left Ohara with a team of 33 other scholars on a journey to discover poneglyphs. But before they set sail, the other crew members said this to Olvia: "If you can't leave your child, then don't come. We will fulfill your husband's wishes." Olvia's husband's wishes, Nico Robin's father, were that the poneglyphs be found and the true history discovered. It is also implied that her husband was not here, else he would have joined them on this quest. I'm sure you get where I'm going with this. I'll embrace the memes. Is Olvia's husband, Robin's father, Gold Roger? Nico Robin looks just like her mother, with one notable exception: black hair. If you guys get the Game of Thrones reference, the seed is strong. Ace was Roger's son. We all know that. It's fact. But is he the only child? That is an assumption. Sometimes what is not said is just as important as what is. It's one way great authors can blow your mind. I think that you have to admit that there is some mystery here. Robin's father is this elusive character. Somebody popular and powerful enough, within Ohara at the very least, to seemingly singularly inspire the Oharans to leave their island in search of poneglyphs. We're going to do this because we are honoring your husband's wishes. Yeah, they are probably doing it for themselves, but they single out Olvia's husband. His wishes. He wished for us to search for these poneglyphs. And yeah, of course, we're supposed to assume that he died, but there's some ambiguity here. But yeah, really, why isn't Nico Olvia's husband here? Why did he die young? What is the purpose for Oda to do that, if that is the case? Why couldn't he just have died with the other Oharans? Why did he have to die beforehand? Or whatever it mysteriously happened to him? And why hype him up as, I guess, their leader? And it's not as if Robin's father had an eternity to die. She was 2 years old at this point in time, which means that at best he died, 2 and 9 months ago. That is really recently. Conspicuously so. Or was he just off on his own adventures? Not there, not because he is dead, but because he is Gold Roger. The guy who can't stay anywhere too long else risks the lives of everybody he befriends. Nico Robin, just like her half-brother Ace, taking the name of their mothers. Did he entrust this task to Ohara, knowing that he had not much time left, perhaps suspecting that there were more poneglyphs to find that he had not, and asked Olvia to continue his journey for him? But I suppose many people might have a fundamental problem with this idea. They refer to Olvia's husband as his husband, meaning that they were married. Then, while married, in his final year, he had a child with another woman? I think we all understand that Roger was an eternally great man, and that no doubt he would have been a lady killer. But perhaps this is a little bit too much, and perhaps a poor message on Oda's part, to be honest. If this is how it was, then I agree. But of course, I'm still speculating here because I can't help but to make this connection. Portgas de Rouge, she is a member of the D family. Is that a coincidence? Roger made a child with one of the few people in this world who openly carries the D initial. Ace, as far as we are aware, is the only person in One Piece canon to be essentially, as much as you can be, a full-blooded D. Inherited will is a powerful concept in One Piece. It appears that all of the Ds we meet, to some extent or another, carry the will of their long-lost ancestors. Could this bond be, strengthened? Even more so if both of your parents were a D. As Whitebeard tells us in Marineford when referring to Blackbeard, you are not the one Roger is waiting for. Roger was waiting for someone. He knew that he could not accomplish everything he wanted to in life. That is why he started the Great Pirate Era. He wanted others to seek out his treasure and find the world's secrets. But I think it can be implied here, it seems more specific than that. Roger isn't waiting for just anyone. He is waiting for another D to follow in his footsteps. That is why Whitebeard thinks this about Marshal D. Teach. Roger told Whitebeard he was waiting for a D, just like himself, someone who carries the Ancient's will, and in this moment, Whitebeard realizes that it certainly couldn't have been Blackbeard, despite being a D as well. This is what Olvia thinks as she leaves Robin to go search for poneglyphs. I am a scholar of Ohara. I cannot abandon the will of those who came before me. The inherited will is significant to her, as it is the same for Roger. This is important. I think Olvia is also a D. I believe this because I believe those countries who protect poneglyphs were once close to or friends with or members of the Great Kingdom lost to history. That is why they were entrusted with protecting the poneglyphs, keeping them safe and hidden for 900 years. The name D is shared among many different people, many different races even. They cannot all be directly related by blood. Jaguar D Sol is a giant. Those who carry the initial, members of the Great Kingdom as we speculate, went into hiding when the kingdom was defeated. Probably many of them went to countries they considered to be their allies, like Ohara. In my opinion, the line of D exists in Ohara, somewhere, through someone, even if we don't get to meet them. But it would make sense for someone like Olvia and Robin to possess it. Remember, we learned from Law, the D initial was meant to be kept secret. Sure, Roger, Garp, Rouge, and Saul carry the initial with pride, but they have forgotten that it should remain a secret. Law's family did not, and possibly Olvia's family as well. And then there's this possibility. How many people have forgotten that they should be a D? So here's another speculation. Did Roger purposefully make children with women he met, whom he had learned or assumed had the same shared D initial? Was this in order to strengthen the D lineage, and possibly create a child who would one day fulfill their dreams, if Roger could not himself? And find, for lack of a better word, the future chosen one. The one, as Whitebeard says, Roger was waiting for. Maybe even more than waiting for him, Roger was actively seeking to create him. Is it possible Olvia lied about Roger being her actual husband? And is it this kind of behavior by Roger that so concerned the government and Cypherpole, that they tried to track down and kill anyone Roger ever associated with? It doesn't really seem like they were all that afraid of a Buggy or a Tom, but rather they were afraid of an Ace, or a Nico Robin, somebody with strong D lineage, the natural enemies of God. Roger says, I haven't spent time with the baby in ages. Rayleigh comments, reminds me of the old days. I assume we're talking about here the days back when Roger was healthy, perhaps the days when Robin was born. Or did Roger have children even older than her? This is pure speculation, but let me have my fun. Wouldn't it be awesome if Luffy was a full-blooded D as well? If strengthening the D bloodline means anything at all and Luffy is the actual chosen one, then he should be full-blooded, right? Who exactly is his biological mother? Is it possible that it could have been Roger's oldest daughter? Garp and Roger are the same age. They could have had children who are the same age. Again, we are told that the government and the Marines and Cypherpole and the Celestial Dragons did everything in their power to retrace Roger's steps and kill anybody he was ever associated with. As Sengoku says, they looked everywhere. Did they find Roger's other mistresses? Did they find perhaps Roger's other children? Did they find and kill Luffy's mother? And is that what set off Dragon to become what he is today? Is Luffy's bloodline a combination of the Monkey D and the Gold D families? Two of the very strongest D lineages that exist in today's world. So yeah, if you were waiting around for a theory that you had never heard before, there you go. Luffy's mother was Goldie Roger's daughter. But anyway, guys, I think I really went in with this one, but I really wanted to do this theory justice, and not only talk about things that I feel like are likely, but even go into things that perhaps are less likely, but just incredibly hype. If you enjoyed this video, I'd very much appreciate it if you shared it with others, and try to convince them to watch it to the end. As always, I'm curious as to what you guys think. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Like the video if you liked the video, dislike the video if you disliked the video, subscribe if you want to be notified for my future content, and as always guys, have a wonderful day.